Adam Taxin talking with Daniel Greenfield about his column, The Subversive Hebrew Language, which is his column for Sunday, July 1st, 2012. Daniel, welcome. And it sounds like that the flotilla types are having a new strategy to try to delegitimize Israel. Can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a new old strategy, really. We've got an expansion of the so-called cultural boycott, the whole idea that Israel has to be isolated into an international ghetto in order to destroy it.
Now, it doesn't sound like that much of a punishment to not be able to read Alice Walker in Hebrew. It's my theory that no one would have heard of her if she weren't a black lesbian, and that's the reason that she's forced upon people at in high school and colleges. Do you think that's an accurate assessment here?
Yeah, I would have said that it's more of a reward than a punishment. But clearly people like this think that depriving Israelis of their wonderful literary gifts is the worst possible punishment.
Who are Henning Man?
The idea that they have to create this border between themselves and the evil Jews, and there's a ghetto mentality in that.
Who are Henning Mankell and Ian Banks, who I guess are with Alice Walker, who's, from what I hear, own daughter hates her. Who are these writers who are also trying to encourage this boycott?
They're on the obscure side. Henning Mankell is not exactly much of a name outside of Sweden. Banks appears to be a British science fiction writer. These are not exactly major names, but they were involved in the flotilla, and they're taking the conflict to the next level.
Now, there is nothing new here. It sounds like this is similar to what the Nazis, obviously, and the communists tried to do with the Hebrew language. Can you explain a little bit about that?
There's a recurring pattern here. You build a ghetto, you create boycotts are just another form of the ghetto. You create this kind of wall of separation. We don't interact with you. This is followed by, when this doesn't suffice, it's followed by physical violence. And you already have some of the boycotts turning into physical violence with actual attacks on the Jewish stores in the UK that resembles really some of what the Nazis began doing.
And how much are Muslims behind all of this, or is it just people who are trying to brown nose Muslims?
A little of both, I imagine.
So it falls under liberalism as a mental disorder as well, it sounds like. Now,
a moral disorder also, which is rather important.
Yeah. Now, enough about these losers. You have a sort of positive aspect to the column too. You talk about Hebrew is a subversive language, and you mean that in a positive way. Can you give us a little bit of history there?
Hebrew is a carrier for Jewish identity. It's also a form of global identity. That's part of the history of the world, and it acts to subvert the political correctness of these tin gods, of whether it's liberalism or any other cult of personality.
You also write about a former refusenik who went on to big things, and I was wondering if you could just tell a little bit about him and also mention him by name, which I don't think you do in the column.
It's part of the general history of how many Jews in the Soviet Union began looking to an older identity. They began looking toward the Hebrew language, and they began studying the Hebrew language. Now, the Hebrew in the Soviet Union was semi-criminal. Owning a Hebrew dictionary could get you sent to prison, which is really what made Hebrew such a subversive language, because it was the only language, aside from Esperanto, which was banned in the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. Esperanto obviously is an artificial language, which they claimed was part of some conspiracy. But Hebrew was a language that was old, that was authentic, but that was banned because it represented the direct carrier wave of Jewish identity.
And who was the former refusenik who you were talking about, who became Israel's information minister?
Yuli Edelstein.
What's his name once more?
Edelstein, Edelstein.
Gotcha. All right. The column is The Subversive Hebrew Language. I've been talking with Daniel Greenfield. Daniel, thanks as always for your time.